What we see in the proposed contract with Democracy Prep is a disturbing continuation of a pattern. It is a 2.5-year pattern of poorly communicated and poorly implemented changes. It is a pattern that employees are all too familiar with and which the community is now experiencing as well. There is a condescending attitude that permeates this process, an attitude that the parents, community, and employees have nothing to offer to the conversation. And the lack of transparency is stunning. Our union submitted an open records request for all communications between Mr. Martinez and Democracy Prep. In an effort to keep those communications secret, the district has requested an Attorney General's opinion in order to try to block the communications from release. You don't request an AG's opinion unless there's something you really don't want the public to know. Our schools belong to the public. They are the public's schools, and the public has a right to know what has been going on behind closed doors. The proposed contract is a 10-year contract and promises the charter company at least 2 full K-12 continuums, up to 2,400 SAISD students, and the accompanying jobs would be contracted out to this charter company. And by the way, there's nothing innovative about contracting out. The administration's narrative has been that this is something they have to do, that they have no other choice because of the state system. But this proposal goes way beyond anything required by the state. And it involves much more than Stewart Elementary School. 2,400 students is around 5% of the SAISD student population. The employees of this district had great optimism 2.5 years ago and looked forward to a collaborative, energetic partnership with this administration. But the optimism and goodwill that once existed have been replaced by desolation and frustration. Teachers and education support personnel all over the country are finding their voice and finding their power. SAISD is no different. And when school employees and the parents and community they serve come together, there is an amazing synergy. Understand that should you approve this contract tonight, our union's fight, this community's fight to protect and preserve public schools that serve all children will not be over. That fight has only just begun.
Also, I served as a campaign manager for 3 important bond elections, and I served on numerous committees. I believe that I'm qualified to speak on this issue, and it grieves me deeply to see what is happening in SAISD. I have worked in 39 states enforcing or negotiating contracts between entities and have read thousands of contracts for employees. I have read this document, and I have never seen such a one-sided agreement in all of my life. Let's see, we take a campus of 430 students, but Democracy Prep ends up with 2,400 students, 5% of the SAISD total. What a great deal for Democracy Prep, but a lousy deal for our side. If this is a negotiated contract, then the SAISD needs to get new negotiators. This is not negotiations, this is capitulation. I suggest this was supplied by Democracy Prep and perhaps a few modifications were made, but I would not in a million years agree to the terms on these papers, and I urge you to reject it. This is a unilateral agreement that will be here long after all of us are dead, and it will destroy the SAISD. Do not let it happen on your watch. There is nothing in the document that gives Democracy Prep's parents any rights. To whom would they complain? Do they have to go to Park Avenue in New York City before the Board of Trustees, whose meetings last about an hour? Who elects these folks? Where is the democracy in Democracy Prep? Do not abdicate your responsibilities. Reject this contract. Larry Romo was head of selective service under President Obama, and right before this meeting he handed me these documents. He said he spent about a half hour online last night, and I have not seen these until then. Anguished mom speaks out for 15-year-old daughter who was allegedly raped at Bronx Charter School. All of these apply to Democracy Prep campuses. Ex-teacher cuffed in Bronx bomb-making plot was having sex with underage student who called in the threat. DC student, teacher choke slammed me against wall at school. Do you know what you're getting into? Or are you just eating the pablum that Mr. Martinez is feeding you?
Okay. All right. I do want to ask your help, people, in between, because the time is supposed to be limited, and I don't want to cut down anybody's time. But if there's going to be a long time of applause after everyone speaks, it is going to be difficult to get everybody in. So, all right, thank you.
The partnership with Democracy Prep has been anything but transparent, with decisions made behind closed doors, members of the community being unaware until recently, and several unanswered questions. So why, I must ask, do you think this partnership is the best solution? When looking back on this past school year, the proposed partnership seems to have been based highly on surface levels of quantitative data. While Stewart is in its 5th year of IR status, further research would show that over the past 3 years, scores have improved, despite the fact that we are forced to pass on students when we feel they are not ready. In addition to this, factors include changes made by district personnel to allow 6 different administration teams over the course of a decade, with only 2 of the past principals having experience in elementary school prior to coming to Stewart. High turnover rates from staff, high mobility rates of students, and what can only be described as neglect from our school from the district.
I wanted my son to come to Stewart because I was displeased at the Head Start program he was already attending. My son has always loved school. He has always loved learning and loves having friends. He simply was not thriving at his old school. He was not being engaged. I've really felt the support and love for my child at Stewart, and I have not regretted the change since my son arrived. When we heard about the charter school change, it was a bit confusing. From day one to the next, we were expected to accept a great change in a way that our son would interact at school. How unfortunate that we didn't look far prior to this decision of change, not only affecting the students who will have to give up teachers they have grown to know and the structure in which they are taught, but the teachers who have the passion to see the students succeed. So to find out that my son was going to lose the opportunity to grow with Stewart was very disappointing. This year, my son has gained much. I have been excited to see his growth. He started reading as young as he is, and with him being challenged is the best thing to see as a mother. I have loved the year we have spent at Stewart, and I will be saddened next year as my son is unable to return.
Hello, thank you for your time. I'm just here to talk basically from the heart. I'm the music teacher at Stewart Elementary. I've been teaching there for 3 years. When I first was hired on, I was kind of told of the situation that Stewart was in, and I was like, let's go for it, let's change it. And my first year, I probably saw like 27 teachers quit. Well, I want to say quit, but they only had lasted 1 year at Stewart. And the second year, it wasn't too different. So we've had a bunch of teachers, roughly around 60 lowballing. Maybe in 4 years, 90 teachers only spend 1 year at Stewart. So as a student, if you're at that school, to like see teachers for 1 year and then the next year they just leave, that must be devastating. Like every time a school loses a teacher, it loses part of its culture. And that school is like cultureless. I hear that there's a chance that it still might stay open or that we still might have a Stewart, so that's why I'm talking today, because I'm just asking that you do not take these dedicated teachers away from this school, because we have our hearts into it and we do care for these kids, and just saying goodbye to them is not an option that I would like to consider. I don't want to think that I'm quitting on these kids. Our school is a lot more than just a number in the system. You know, those are families, those are human beings that deserve teachers that stay with them through their year. And it's just a sad situation, you know. Like I knocked door to door this spring break and talked to parents trying to collect signatures, and they were all very surprised to hear that Stewart Elementary, their own school, was not going to be Stewart Elementary next year. And they had no idea. And I'm like, how do you not know this school is right next door? And they told me they didn't know. And where do I go to help fight this?
Each month this year, I've come before you regarding the district's plan to hand over Stewart Elementary to Democracy Prep. Each month, our asks have been simple and straightforward. We've asked for transparency. We've asked that the district inform and involve the greater Stewart community. I now truly understand to what extent our requests have fallen on deaf ears. It is clear to me, based on the actions of the district, that you do not want to inform the community members, that you do not want feedback, that you want to make decisions that will directly impact the Stewart community for the next 10 years without any meaningful dialogue. Now that the contract has finally been released, made available to the public only 2 days ago, we see the extent to which the Stewart community has been misinformed. We were told in the beginning that there would be a bilingual program at Stewart next year. We were told that students at Stewart would continue to be SAISD students held to the SAISD Student Code of Conduct, that discipline would be enforced the same as it is throughout the district. Yet the contract clearly states that Democracy Prep shall have full autonomy to institute its code of conduct and disciplinary procedures. Not only has the district not done its due diligence in informing the Stewart community about the proposed changes for next year, but in several cases they've misled the public and have not returned to correct the record. With all of this attention on Stewart, I ask, who of you have visited our school, walked our halls, spoken to our students, met with parents and community members? Perhaps if over the last 5 years that this school has been struggling, you had worked to build a relationship with our community, it would not be so simple to disclude them from this conversation. Imagine if I treated my second grade class the way our district is treating the Stewart community at the moment. If I made unilateral decisions without any input or feedback. If I ignored their repeated requests to be involved in important decisions that directly impact them on a day-to-day basis. You could hardly describe that as a student-centered classroom, one of the district's core values. However, our students do not exist in a vacuum. They are part of the rich fabric of their neighborhood, of their community. Communities that deserve to be treated with dignity and respect and have the right to self-determination. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our members care about their children. They care about their neighborhood schools. They care about the tax dollars they send to you, which they don't want to send to New York City. They are angry that the administration has deceived the community by not being transparent. They do not want their community schools to be given to corporations with no accountability to the community. Each member of the school board has the title of trustee. The key part of that word is trust. Will your action tonight be in keeping with that trust, or will you sell out the community?